from eBay.
I have all my equipment back at home. I'm in DC right now, and I was supposed
Good
to.
evening, Miss Tara Ann. What are you doing in Washington, D.C.?
I came for a Walkaway event, and I haven't left.
Get out! How was it?
I was only supposed to be. I met Blair White.
No way.
I got her on interview. I have to still clip it together. I've been a little bit busy right now, but at the Walkaway event, I got her to talk a little bit of an interview for my channel and everything. Yeah. So that was oh my God, I'm so horrible. It was like 2 weeks ago. But so I've been here now in DC for the last like 2 weeks and stuff, and then so the city's kind of like crazy a bit. So there's a lot of things to kind of cover. And I haven't left, and I decided I'm just going to stay through the elections because, there's going to be a lot of fuckery going on.
So you're going to be there until the elections?
Yeah. I'm going to try. I'm going to try and go to the Trump Hotel on election evening. So that's where everybody and everything is going to be at.
Oh my God! I'm jealous. I'm so jealous. I wish I could come.
I made a lot of friends here in the city and everything, and a lot of people that work at the Trump Hotel too.
Really? Yeah. And I assume they're all voting for Trump.
Yes. It's so nice to meet some like-minded individuals.
Yeah.
So it's good to have your everybody from different perspectives and stuff like that. But like with all the weird stuff going on in this election, like it's nice to talk to people that are kind of normal,
Yeah, I know, right? Actually, speaking of Blair White, I was watching the LGBT Throwdown.
Yes.
Yeah.
She was speaking at that with Brandon.
Brandon Shaw.
Sarga.
Yeah, the gay left versus the gay right. So I thought, okay, this is very interesting. I want to watch it. It was pretty long, but you could just guess who won the debate. Hello.
Of course.
There was no debate.
The other side needs to learn how to debate. So
well, actually the moderator, he was like 100% superior to Chris Wallace. I'm telling you.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he was so much better.
When I went back and looked back at the Chris Wallace debate with the 2016 with Hillary, it was so different compared to what we saw now and stuff. Like, because back then they just thought they were going to win. Mm-hmm. So they just are so like chill about it, like they didn't press anything. Now they're like, oh, we're sweating it. So they're like, Wallace is like, oh, he was attacking Trump the way he was speaking, 100%, 100%.
Yeah, all the way. And of course, Samantha Guthrie at the Trump town hall, that was a circus. Like, hello, you're the moderator. You're not supposed to be debating with the president. He's your guest. Okay.
Yeah.
And then she managed to answer most of the questions instead of the public. It was really absurd.
But did you notice the way that she was even speaking? She wouldn't say like, "Oh, this person voted for you in 2016." She said like they didn't vote for Hillary. It's like even the choice of language that was used.
It was scripted.
Like it was so clear. Yeah. It was so clear. Like you're not supposed to say this is a pro-Trump person. You're just supposed to say they weren't with Hillary.
Right. It was very scripted. Well, the one thing I liked about that Trump town hall was that, did you notice that Black woman wearing a mask seated behind the president? And she was like, every time he would like talk, she would like, she would like nod her head, give her a thumbs up.
She's such a meme now.
She's a meme. I mean, her video went viral.
Now. Yeah, she's such a meme now.
And I told my friends, listen, you need to watch this video clip because actually during the break when the president approached the public and engaged in a wonderful, lovely conversation with his fans.
When I saw your video, I was like, this is fantastic. I'm like, this is the side of the president that needs to be seen. That's the human side.
Exactly.
We never see that.
Well, hello, CNN doesn't even mention any one good accomplishment the president has in the last 4 years. Every post CNN is very negative, very critical, very harsh, very judgmental, nothing positive. And you wonder, no wonder people call them fake news.
Yeah, 100%. It's like, I get it now. It's like when I had that aha moment a couple months ago, I'm like, how did this all go through my head? Because like now everyone's like, oh, you're uneducated and everything. I'm like, I'm a lot more educated now than I was back then. That's what, like I feel like I just like literally like how did this stuff go like literally over my head before? Like
Right.
that's when I felt like I was uninformed and uneducated and everything. Oh, it's
Yeah, I
so
know.
insane.
Yeah, and you're half Asian, so you're not supposed to be Republican. I
Oh,
mean,
I'm also a female, so
that's true. That's true.
so everyone's like, oh my God, you're a female that supports Trump. You must like really hate yourself. And I'm like, I don't actually.
I
That's the
love
funny
you
thing.
all.
I don't. I just happen to see through the bullshit. So I mean, like I wish you would too. I mean, oh my God, crazy.
Well,
But
I'm so glad to have finally met you, at least virtually.
yeah.
And I think I started following you I think 2 years ago. Yeah, 2 years ago. And when the first time I read all your postings on your wall, I said, okay, well, this young woman is very interesting. I mean, I haven't, just reading all your stuff and everything. And then, when you started arguing with liberals about that statue.
Yes. I can't believe it all really started from a statue.
It all
Like,
started with a statue, and I couldn't
it
help
all
but like
started with a
read all
statue.
this thread. Oh my God, this vicious and hatred coming from the left attacking this poor
Yeah.
young woman. Oh my
Yeah.
God, it's unbelievable.
I had no idea that this whole thing was like, when they speak of like the narrative and because like as a liberal, I was never attacked.
Yeah,
So I had no idea I was promoting anything that's seen as views by the right. I was just like kind of being me and like defending a statue and defending history does not equate to like how they were accusing me about like lies, this and that. So
exactly,
that was nuts. That was nuts and everything.
exactly.
But my friend is going to. I'm going to let my friend in a couple of minutes. I have to like run downstairs because I'm renting an Airbnb and I'm not registered to the building.
Oh my God. Okay.
So I was like, don't go close to security and everything. To flag
Oh,
me the host and everything
okay.
like that. So that's
So,
why I was
so,
like concerned.
so you're
and
free
whatnot.
most of the night, most of the evening. You pretty much.
The whole evening. I just need to make sure he gets into the apartment
Okay.
and everything because
All right.
I like otherwise he'd be like following people to come in, which is fine and everything because I mean people come in and out of the building all the time, but I would feel bad.
Okay. Not this. We can talk as much as we can.
Yes.
Well, okay, we can talk more about politics and all, but you were a pageant queen. You were a pageant girl.
Yeah.
Tell us, for those viewers who do not know you or who have never heard of you, would you like to say something about your pageant experience?
So I started competing. The first competition I ever did was when Trump was running Miss Universe organization. I was 14 years old and I competed for Miss Florida Teen USA.
Oh,
And
wow.
then that's I had a family friend that was competing. And so my family was like, hey, do you want to get into pageantry? I'm like, what's pageantry? And so I started off competing for Miss Florida Teen USA. And I always just had a love for the stage. And so it was just another extension of that to
Right.
do theater, to do singing, dancing, piano. I didn't have like tiger parents or anything, but and so they never pushed me to do anything,
No
just
stage
exposed me to
moms.
everything.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, no stage moms or anything. My mom was actually very real about it. She's like, don't do that. Like, I'm thankful that she wasn't one of those parents that were like, oh no, it's perfect. She'd be like, no, you need to improve on that.
That's right.
And but without like, she was a very like real about it. But my parents were never like pushing me to do pageantry or anything. There was just something that developed into a passion.
Mhm.
And with that, I had just very supportive parents. And so I started off with Miss Florida Teen USA. I competed when I was 14 and then again when I was 17. And this was before they had the MAO teen. And so the first time I competed in the Miss America system, where I really found my true passion with, was when I was 17, and I competed for in Florida for the Miss America organization, and adapted my platform was actually cultural diversity and to promote racial tolerance. And then so like now, like being a Trump supporter, I'm accused of being racist left and right and a neo-Nazi, and I'm Polish also. So I'm like, you really need to do more of your research if you're going to call me a neo-Nazi. So but yeah, so when I started competing in the Miss America system, I started off with I've held 4 titles Miss America. The first one was Miss Miami in 2007, and then Miss Fort Lauderdale in 2009, and Miss Central Florida Coast in 2010. And then that's when I relocated from after I was done with my first master's degree in Miami. I went to school for a second master's degree at NYU, and so relocated over to New York, and then I started competing for my final year there in the New York system, and then had good success. I was top 10 at state, the swimsuit winner there too. So that was in 2011, and fantastic after that.
Was that so
yes.
Which system do you prefer, the Miss USA or Miss America system?
I'm definitely an MAO girl at heart. The system has changed so much. I competed, last year I aged out was in 2011. So it's been some significant time that it's changed organizational leadership, changed different components. There's some things that I don't agree with the changes that have been made, but at the same time, it's still a very crucial system. Right. And it's something that I will always support. So I'm always an MAO girl at heart. I fortunately did have the opportunity to cross over to compete in multiple systems. And I've tried out even like Miss Earth system and the Miss International system, representing New York as a state title holder in those systems, and then branched out into finding out really about international pageants. And I competed as Miss USA in 3 different international pageants, the most prominent one being Miss Tourism.
Miss Tourism World, right?
Miss Tourism International, actually, the one that's in Malaysia.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay, all right. Because there's so many tourism titles in tourism world.
Yeah, there's a couple tourism titles.
Yeah.
They do. But this one is actually a second tier competition. So you have your Miss Universe and Miss Earth, which is the first top tier competitions, and then you have a second tier competitions. Right. And so Miss Tourism International is in the second tier. But a lot of girls that I competed with also competed at Miss Universe, and when they were comparing their experiences there, it was just fantastic, because like with Miss Tourism, they really focused on taking us around Malaysia, and that was the first time that I had done an international competition. And then it was amazing to have like almost 75 girls, 75 women, different like it was the first time I even heard of certain countries, and I considered myself really well traveled back then, but I'm like, oh, Myanmar, where's Myanmar? And she's like, oh, it's former Burma. And Myanmar was one of the most closed off countries in the world prior to then, and I had the opportunity to travel to Myanmar following the competition.
Right, yeah. A lot of people don't know that though. They've never heard of like Myanmar, but they've heard of Burma or Burmese.
Yeah.
And what do you call a citizen of Myanmar? Myanmarese, Myanmarian, like, or Burmese?
Because they still identify as Burmese.
Yeah. So are you still
Burmese food and everything?
Yeah. Are you still in contact with your former competitors from that pageant?
I am actually. I think like social media has its plus and minuses, but one of the greatest things about social media is the ability to stay in touch with people and also find people. Right. So I am still in touch with the girls I competed with. This was back in 2014 when I competed in Miss Tourism International, and I've gone to visit them in like Miss Japan. I've gone to visit even Miss Singapore and Miss,
went to Indonesia,
Cambodia.
Didn't you? Yeah. Huh? You went to Indonesia, Bali?
Yes, yeah. And I even met up with Miss Indonesia there. So that's one of the great things about like international competitions, like the friendships that you make, like, and you're able to sustain them. And since I love traveling, I was able to go and visit them in their home countries. Mm-hmm.
So if you had a daughter, would you encourage your daughter to compete, to join pageants someday?
I would, but not in the sense like I would open up the conversation and see where it would go from there. Whatever, like when I have children, whatever they're going to be interested in doing is what I'm going to be supportive about. Whether it's like, for me, like there was a point that I was debating either doing pageantry or doing Muay Thai and boxing, because I actually like fighting. and so I was getting kind of bruised up from the fight club that was part of from that, and I'm like, all right, this is going to be a tough transition to do one or the other. So I did do pageantry, but even if kids want to do sports or anything, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, well, especially these days, you need to defend yourself.
Yes. Oh, I know. Actually, the ironic thing is like now, like I never believed in the Second Amendment prior to now becoming a walk away and furthering my understanding as to what is even the Second Amendment, because like beforehand, like with the school shootings and everything that happens in America, like you develop your view based on that.
Right.
But then I started learning from the alternative perspective of how it's the Second Amendment that really protects the First. And like if you're a supporter of the First Amendment, you have to be a supporter of the Second Amendment. One defends the other.
Well, isn't it amazing how our founding fathers have thought about, that idea? Because, just in case the First Amendment didn't work, you can always have the Second Amendment to protect your First Amendment.
Yeah.
Which is amazing.
Yeah.
I don't think of
they were brilliant. They were ahead of their time.
I can't think of any other
ahead of their
country
time.
that has the Constitution that we do have. I think that's one thing that really makes America unique from the rest of the world.
One moment. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
Backtrack a little bit.
Okay. I had to pause that one. So now I resume.
Okay. Fantastic.
As I was saying, I think a lot of Americans, especially those who maybe have not traveled abroad or who've not experienced, international life, they take everything for granted in this country. Little do they know.
So.
No, they don't realize how privileged they are, how they privileged, they are to be able to express their opinions, their points of views, without the fear of being harassed or killed. But of course, that's changing now.
And it's true, because if it's now becoming a fireable offense to be a Trump supporter, that's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I mean, people's understanding of the First Amendment is like, oh, you just can't be arrested, but there's a spirit about it as well. And so the cancel culture that we're experiencing online, like that is actually a violation of our First Amendment rights, because people should be able to speak their opinion freely, to be supportive of either candidate and not have to fear losing their livelihood, their jobs over this. That is a violation of First Amendment rights.
Well, not only that, but I think this country has turned into like Nazi Germany in a way, because
I agree.
Well, you have the socialist media, that pretty much manipulates and controls the way we think. You have CNN, NBC, MSNBC, all the big, humongous news agencies that are basically controlled and owned by big corporations that traditionally vote Democrat. So everything we see, we absorb by watching all this. And that explains why there's so many rabid liberals and Democrats, because they think outside the box without resorting to these leftist mainstream media. They can't see themselves.
And they make it difficult. Like they make it difficult because you do actually have to do active research in order to find the truth that's behind it. So whatever is presented to you in the media, it's easy to just accept that as your truth. And like most people assume that like the media is not lying to you, but guess what, they are.
Exactly. And I think well, now when did you get red pilled?
I was red pilled. So literally, all right. So it was the week that it was the first week after the George Floyd protests had erupted in the country. Okay. And so how it all started was because my first post was not one that was in support of BLM. And the first post was because my father saw the Kosciuzko statue being vandalized. And my dad is like, nobody knows who Kosciuzko is. I'm half Polish. And so this is, it's an attack of my history that I feel like it is limited in terms of like the knowledge that people have here. And so when I saw that people were vandalizing the Kosciuszko statue, and this is a revolutionary American war hero, that he actually was like, before even abolition became the thing, he was among the first like to be promoting equality for races and everything. So because he fought to defend people who are Native Americans, he fought for African Americans, like everybody in the country, regardless of your race or creed, like the equality of man. And then so in a sense, like that is something that is a spirit that's in line with the concept of the movement of BLM. And so to differentiate now from the organization, which, I have a different view of the organization themselves.
I think we all do.
But so I defended the Kosciuszko statue. And then I also I guess the controversial part of my post was I assumed that people had had an understanding of the swastika, how it was perverted by Nazi Germany and by Hitler to be switched from being a Buddhist and Hindu peace symbol. And so I equated the use of BLM to the KKK, to the swastika, from the concept of, if you're going to be using a symbol, it's going to be then seen the way it's going to be used. So if you're using it in forms of vandalism and violence, something that is supposed to be a good movement is not going to be seen that way. Right. And so people didn't hear at all what I was saying, and they just saw BLM, KKK, and swastika in the same sentence, and they're like, "How dare you? Right? How dare you say such a thing?" And I was really speaking from like a historical perspective and unemotional, actually, but the visceral hatred I received back from that post. You would think that I told people to go and die, and they're like, "You value," again, they're like, "You value a statue more than you do human life," and I'm like, "You're." Like, how are you tossing apples and oranges? Like, this makes absolutely no sense. But that's what we're seeing now with when logic, really common sense. Like, I tried to share mine, but a lot of people don't want to use, they don't choose to accept it, which I don't understand. So, there's the common sense value is very limited nowadays.
Well, and do they even teach critical thinking in high school or in college?
I don't think so, because I do really feel like our colleges are very much like these conditioning liberal
you're leftist
grounds, and I went to NYU, which was like the whole state of New York is in one direction. Like, literally, I was one of those crying liberals.
Yeah,
I was one of those crying liberals because I voted for Hillary at the last election, and when she didn't win, I was certainly like depressed with everybody else in New York, and but I didn't understand.
Depressed but not suicidal.
I said I was going to leave the country. I said I was going to leave the country. Yeah, I mean, like, I had some sense of reasoning. Eventually it came around 3-4 months ago. Yeah. I feel like that reasoning kicked in after like common sense was just like so even beyond everybody around me. But I think we're at that point because with the pandemic going on, we were all isolated from each other. So these are very difficult conversations that are meant to be had in person. Like you go to a bar and have a drink with a friend, and you have these kind of conversations that we're now trying to tackle on a very one-dimensional ground of social media. Right. And so there's a lot of misunderstanding that occurs from that, and a lot of projection that occurs from that. And people are going to take on the tone, not necessarily of the author, but of themselves.
Mm-hmm. I see. I really don't think, when I like to argue, like on social media, there isn't a day where I don't argue or fight with liberty.
Oh, it's my favorite thing.
Me too, honey. Pretty much we have the same passion and hobby. But you know what? I just realized, even though this is like what I call intellectual masturbation, you really can't convince or persuade anybody online to change their point of view. That's why it's always best to engage this face-to-face, like what you said, in a bar, drinking a coffee or drinking a beer or whatnot. That's always the most effective. Like what Adam Francisco is doing. He travels from one place to another, interviewing people without necessarily imposing his own political beliefs on anyone. He just
just ask him, what's your opinion?
Yeah, exactly.
A very simple question. And then even people are shocked that they would ask, like, they're like, oh, what? Because they have this image that a Trump supporter is so like limited minded that they don't care about your opinion. And so when they have a person in a MAGA hat saying, what are your thoughts on the politics, either Biden or Trump, they're like, what?
Now, you come from a mixed background.
Yes.
Tell us, how did your parents meet?
So I'm Polish and I'm Filipino. So on my mother's side, my mother's a liberal and my father's a conservative. Okay. Well, I would just say my mother's just anti-Trumpster. But so my mother came from the Philippines. She's a nurse. And then my dad's an aircraft mechanic, both retired. And they met in California. And because California, of course, is a very diverse state. So they met, and then me and my brother showed up a couple of years later. Not even a couple of years later, pretty soon afterwards, actually.
Your brother's older than you, right?
I have one older brother and one younger brother. So my older brother is a anti-Trumpster, and then I'm very Trumpster as they come. And then my younger brother is very silent about his politics. And so he would be the deciding vote in a split household. But we don't talk politics around my younger brother when he comes to visit the house. Otherwise, he'll be like, all right, I'm going to leave because he feels it's very divisive. And actually, me and my older brother are very civil. with our conversations with each other, because we grew up in a sense like a very impolite household, that we are taught to express our opinion of both religion and politics. And so anytime before, when my mom would tell me that I'm being too boisterous online, my father will jump in and say, stop trying to silence my daughter.
I love it. So your father's very tolerant, much more tolerant than your mom. Okay, about diversity.
I'm still a registered Democrat. Like I haven't planned on actually changing my registration. I do think there are valid points on both sides, of course, and then there's been times that my mother has voted Republican. I remember the first time when I flew into Florida to vote, my dad picked me up at the airport. He's like, "Did you hear what your mother did?" I'm like, "What did she do?" And he's like, "She voted for McCain." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, how could she not vote for Obama?" And then so my mom was the black sheep at that point, and now me and my dad are the black sheep. But so what I can reflect upon myself is I realized I never asked why my dad was a Trump supporter. And so that's something that I'm like, like now looking back, I'm like, how did I become such an intolerant person to not even ask my father for his opinion anymore? Okay. And to just, when he spoke he spoke well of Trump, I would just like nod my head, and I really ignored him. Oh. And I think that's wrong. I think that's wrong, because my father had voted for Hillary in 2016, but shortly thereafter is when he had his aha moment, and became a Trump supporter. And then so he was the sole Trump supporter in the household for all of those years. And like what were you saying? You can't really change a person's mind or perspective from the conversations that we have online. It's really a personal, like it's a personal relationship that you have. So so everybody has to have, in a sense, their own aha moment. And so the perspectives I haven't necessarily changed for people, because I don't feel people change their perspectives. They just widen their horizons or their understanding, but belief system really doesn't change. And so like people have told me that they become Trump supporters out of conversations with me. And so those are my real life like friends and relationships, because they were so shocked that I was a Trump supporter, because in a sense, like they saw me as like the last person that would ever be a Trump supporter. So when they saw me now become a Trump supporter, they cared about me as a person. So they asked me why. And that's the crucial part about it, to have those open, honest conversations. And I just explained my position as to why I'm a supporter of him. And they're like, I had no idea Trump has done any of these things.
Right, yeah.
Because you never learn about it. You won't learn about it unless you actively seek it out yourself.
So how many friends have you lost since you became a Trump supporter?
A lot.
But you know what? Okay, but either they voluntarily left you, or they
weren't true friends to begin with.
Or they stayed and they kept either trolling you or they kept harassing you. Because I see the same type of people over and over again. Oh, this guy again, and I wonder,
why don't you just defriend me?
Block them off. Why are you not doing that?
I choose not to block people on my social media, because I'm not trying to create an echo chamber for myself.
Okay.
I do actually like to engage with people with different opinions than my own, because you don't want to fall into that cycle of having groupthink.
Right.
And so like if I were to actively block people from my social media and everything, because like even though it's a lot of I gotta put up with a lot of bullying. It's bullying. I mean, I'm able to separate myself too, to know that like they don't know me personally. So none of the attacks that I've experienced really online, like, there's been a couple of people that go for the jugular, but at the same time, I'm like, you don't really know me as a person, because you're judging me based on a social media account.
Exactly.
And not a real conversation. So when people like to say, people tell me often I'm the #1 troll on social media, and I'm like, did you notice I never post on anybody else's wall? Because like, your social media account is going to be like your home, and so I can voice my own opinion on my own wall, and that's it. So when people are coming onto my wall and my feed and telling me that I'm the troll, I'm like, I've never once said anything to you on your wall, but everyone likes to go onto my wall and tell me that I'm the troll. But I'm like, it's my wall, I can say whatever I want. And when people tell me like I'm very like provocative, I'm like, all right, give me an example. I asked my mother, she's like, oh, you have to stop being so provocative online. I'm like, give me an example of something that's provocative. And she's like, Ivanka 2024. And then so I'm like, you mean hashtag Ivanka 2024, right?
That's
and then I'm like, what else? what else is provocative? The picture of the screaming lady. The one post I had, I was like, oh, that's my inner, that's my inner voice, that's my inner Kimberly.
Yeah.
And so my mom's like, oh, that's very provocative too. And I'm like, oh, you don't say. Okay. So this is the definition of what's provocative, which is, I'm like, we are really lowering our standards.
Well, so we both know that Trump rallies are omnipresent. They're everywhere. Okay.
Yes.
Now, have you actually seen, have your mom and your brother actually attended a Biden rally?
You know what? Like, they have not gone to a Biden rally, and then my hometown of Oviedo, like, we passed by, because I often go to paint the Trump events with flag waving, and then so they are completely packed. They're always packed, and then it's fun to always trigger the liberals in the corner and everything. Yeah. But so I did actually come across a Biden rally once, and bless their hearts, oh my God, there was all but 5 people there.
Oh, well, I guess it's better than nothing,
I didn't even know they existed.
With all wearing masks? With all wearing masks?
I don't remember exactly, but I drove by them, and then
social distancing.
Maybe they were all within the same family, all 5 of them. But I had no idea a Biden rally would even exist until I saw this like group of like 5 people waving flags in the corner of Walgreens, and I'm like, wow.
That's.
And I had my flag in the back, and in the back of my seat, and so I am always with my flag.
I love that. Yeah, I love that flag. I actually wearing as you can see, I'm wearing the blue cap.
Back the blue.
Okay, you know what? It's time to change my hat too. Now we're twins.
Oh my God. If you're changing my hat, I have to grab I have another one too.
Oh, you do? Okay.
This one is actually my favorite one. Ooh. It's the Polish American flag. So you have the Polish American flag in the back of it. So this one is actually my favorite. It's my father's. So, but when I came up to DC, I didn't realize I was going to be staying here so long. So I only brought 5 of them.
I have another one too. See?
Oh my God, I actually have that one too. It's one that I brought with me, except it's where go. Fantastic.
Noah.
My hat collection, my oh my God, my word. I have to make a video of a fashion show of all my Trumpster gear and everything. But I think my favorite piece that I have 2 favorite pieces. One is my Melania jacket of I Really Don't Care.
Yeah, I saw that.
That one's been a big hit.
Love that.
That one's been a fantastically big hit. Terrific, I tell you.
Actually, that jacket is asexual. I can wear it if I want to, right? Guys can wear
it. Yeah, absolutely. I think it can go for guys or girls. So the way because it's like an army trench coat a little bit. Yeah. So I've got that one. And then my other one is I didn't bring it up here with me, but I have a Donald Trump Matters shirt.
Oh, okay.
That one's quite good. That is America.
Yeah. But I actually want to get one of those Black Olives Matter t-shirt. Just to piss off all
I saw one that I saw that looks really cool is also a Pence shirt that says pretty fly for a white guy, and I'm like, I want that shirt as well. But one shirt that I wear often that is not political but also seems to be a hit is it's okay to be white.
I saw that too.
Yeah. So that was a favorite when people see me wearing that, they're like, can I have a photo with you? I'm like, of course.
God, that's hilarious. That's too funny. So is there a chance, do you think your mom will stick with Biden, or your brother will stick with Biden? Pretty much
so we're in the
resolute.
We're in the same household. I know we have the same values. I have the same values as my mom. My mom is a very hardcore Catholic, and so we have the same values. And that's the ironic part, is like she's so conditioned to how she's such a sheep. Like,
right. So your mom is a devout Catholic, right? So what does she think of Biden's pro-choice stance on abortion?
Like,
So
from
how
her
would you like?
perspective, she's like, oh, neither side. I was like, I tried to educate her too, to say, like, how far abortion things are going, and like, in Virginia, to be able to, like, the baby's like literally right there, and it's like, okay, we're going to decide whether or not to resuscitate. That a bill like that to be even like
What would you even
brought up,
consider? Yeah,
I can't believe it. I
yeah,
can't believe it. So I don't think she realizes how far,
right.
like, left things have gone,
Yeah.
because like my views haven't changed. My understanding of the world is what has changed.
Mhm.
And so I've realized now my views of I was always conservative in the middle.
Mhm.
And so those views are now just reflected in the Republican Party. But here's the thing: I want a multi-party system, because I don't feel like all my views are necessarily reflected in either one.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah,
so I think that there's always opportunities for improvement,
yeah.
and we could be diversifying more and having more political parties out there. Like in Poland, they had 16 candidates run for office, and then you have the top two that go into a runoff. So I think that would be fantastic if we could have that still in the States. So, that's a far off dream. Maybe one day it will happen.
Yeah. Well,
But
we do have the Independent Party. We have the Green
yes,
Party. We
yeah,
have other party, the Freedom Party, and whatnot. We're the Communist.
yeah.
So these there are
Even
more than
all
two
those
parties.
commies, comrade.
But I asked the other day. I asked a friend of mine. I mean, do you think it's time to abolish the two-party system in America because it has caused so much division and a hatred amongst us? If
Hmm.
But then again, you wonder, what? If you only have one party, you would probably feel as if you were living in a communist party where you only have one choice to
Absolutely.
everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Is
there's
it
no
really a
diversity.
choice if you have one option?
Exactly, exactly. So no, we should have at least more than two parties.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
what is your stance on immigration?
Immigration. So
Yeah.
I have a great video of my father going, "Build that wall, Mr. President." And so I do feel that on the left side, that like what Biden is promoting is a form of open borders. I mean, like, every country, it is illegal to cross into a country illegally. I remember one time when I was crossing from Malaysia to Singapore, like, I fell asleep on the bus, and so I didn't get my stamp to exit out of Malaysia. And Singapore is one of those countries you do not want to mess with. They are
Yeah.
very, very, very strict in Singapore. And then, but fortunately, there was somebody on the bus that realized I was sleeping in the back and went up to the bus driver and told the bus driver to go back around to the border, so that way I can have my exit stamp and stuff. But and then there's other times when I crossed into when I came into Israel. Israel is very, very strict, and so I've traveled to a lot of Muslim countries, and so there was concern with my passport having so many Muslim stamps. So I was actually, like, detained, put into a separate room, and it took me almost 2-3 hours to clear immigration, because they had to, like, vet me even
Right,
more.
right.
And but like these kind of procedures, it's the right of every country to be protecting its borders. And the thing is, like, when you have also, like, when, like, people think that Trump is the one, like, that's anti-immigrants and everything. No, it's just about being pro the legal process. And my family I come from a family of immigrants and everything, so, like, that it's a slap to the face to allow legal immigration to
Right. Yeah.
be occurring, because it's going to deter people from going through the legal process. And
Right.
so, to make your way into the country through legal grounds. But, like, it independent of, like, feeling as if it's a slap to the face or whatever, but Obama was actually your deportation king by not having strict
Yeah, I
borders
know.
and everything.
Yeah.
I think, in terms of separation of families and stuff, it's far worse to allow a person to then come into the country, and then maybe, like, like, then to start roots, and
Right.
then to have kids, to have family and everything. And then when they're caught for illegal immigration, then deported. That's when they've laid down the roots into the country, and then that's cruel.
Right.
So if you prevent them from coming in, then you won't be separating people at that point. And so when we see those images of kids in cages and everything, that was actually from Obama. That was
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
Trump's not coming up with anything new. He's just enforcing the laws that exist
Yeah.
there. Is there opportunities for improvement? Absolutely.
Right.
But we need to be securing our borders before we can even offer a program that because you can't just, like, kick everybody out of the country, because that's going to form its own, like, another problem for it. But
Right.
I forgot what year it was, but they have had in the past that they legalized all the illegal immigrants. I believe the population was like 3 million at that time, but all that did was exacerbate the situation. So before you can even provide a program to allow, like, for for people to become legal who have crossed in illegally, you have to secure the borders, and then you can come up with a proper program from that. And I don't know if necessarily like if you're going to like make them legal immigrants, because you are awarding then a crime that has occurred because they didn't come in through, like, my father's a refugee, so he didn't come through, like, people have to go through the appropriate like means and the channels for it. And I am a person of law and order, so this is not going according to that. But also, like, there's like what is seen as a a leftist sentiment or whatever is like, for in terms of like humanity, the sanctuary cities are cruel.
Yeah.
I think they're cruel because then it puts people in a position that they can become the victims of crimes, and they're not able to speak. Like the women are, like, if they're raped or like, because you need to know that a person is in the country in order to be able to afford them the rights and protections of humanity.
Exactly.
And so they then become like, it's a victim, like when they become the victims of these crimes, they're not able to even come forward. So like we're actually doing even more of a disservice by harboring
Ever
people
since
in
actually,
sanctuary.
I don't remember Obama ever having like or at least diminished the issue of human trafficking as President Trump has. I mean, he's literally cracking down on human trafficking and prostitution, and also saving a lot of innocent kids and children being victimized and stuff. So I think he's doing very, but the media wouldn't report about these things. No, they're like, mom, they're silent about these things.
There are a lot of common ground issues that people could be joining together. For example, I believe Ivanka had a summit in January that human rights groups even like boycotted and refused to attend because they didn't like Trump's immigration, how they viewed the immigration policies to be. So they boycotted going to Ivanka's human trafficking for children like summit. And so it's like I don't need to agree with you on everything, but if there's something that we can agree on, such as human trafficking when it comes to children, like, just set your differences aside and just move forward when it comes to that. Like,
exactly.
You're further doing a disservice if not. Like, that's what I hate about like current politics, when they just have such a standstill on it.
That's what real bipartisanship relationship is all about. You despite all your political differences. You focus on the child. The child doesn't know any better. Just focus on the child's welfare and whatnot. Now, something that bothers me about the leftist argument. Okay, well, we need to welcome all these legal immigrants because we need people that control the economy and all that shit. So sorry, my French, but but you know what? When you ask like a typical leftist, okay, I understand where you're coming from, but would you yourself welcome a homeless person to your house? If you can't even trust a homeless person, what gives you the right to trust an illegal alien staying in your house? They're stuck when they can give me a good answer. I mean, you think about the homeless people in America, the veterans who are homeless. We need to take care of these people first, rather than the expression charity begins at home. Hello, So,
and the concept was like putting America first and everything. Like, I do believe America is the best country in the world. I've traveled to 57 countries, and I've seen, like the politics and how government and social relationships exist in other parts of the world. And the people have this assumption that America is great, and we are, but we do have a lot of problems here in our own backyard that exist in other parts of the world, such as homelessness. Like, for being such a quote unquote rich country, like, why are we having problems with homelessness? And so what I think is also like kind of interesting to that, like, cities and states that have the highest tax are also the ones that are experiencing the most problems with homelessness. Like, why is there so much homelessness in California
and these cities
and
are
New York?
And they're all
and
run by
the tax
Democrats.
rate is like,
They're all run by
Democrat
Democrat mayors
cities.
and governors.
Yeah.
Oh my God, Los Angeles has gotten so much worse.
Yeah.
There's like,
I was born there, so
there are like 10 cities on the sidewalk. I mean, I grew up in San Francisco. I came from San Francisco, so I know the Bay Area and whatnot. And San Francisco is like the pits. The last time I was there was 3 years ago, and things have changed for the worse. And now I think it's much even worse because people are actually defecating on the sidewalk. They're urinating. They're using drugs everywhere, condoms everywhere. Like, hello, I don't. And what the median average for a house is what $650,000 for a 2-bedroom, 1 bathroom. I don't think so. Bye. Go live in the country. Go move to Texas. But don't turn Texas blue, okay?
Oh, please, Lord, no. But while we're on the topic of homelessness, my father has a very interesting project and idea that I've tried to start promoting also on my YouTube channel, and it's called Mega Farm for Homeless. And basically, I've seen this in smaller scales in both the UK, and then there's a couple smaller scale farms that exist here in the US. But America has so much land. We have so much farmland that why not, in a sense, the concept of a mega farm for the homeless is to be allowing like plots of land. You give people like seeds and the ability to farm their own land to sustain themselves. And it'll give people more also, you know, when you're in that devastated state of homelessness, you can, if you give a person a sense of purpose and their dignity, that would also, you know, lift up their emotions and their soul. Yeah. And so I think that, like, in a sense, like, it is a socialist program to implement, but a socialist program is different from a socialist society. But like, I think that would be great if we can implement like a mega farm for the homeless. I've seen like dorm styles, because you have the homeless shelters that are concentrated inside of the cities, but like, you know, you have if you have a area that has a lot of homelessness, it's going to drive down property values. It's going to be unsightly. It's going to be, you know, and they don't have anywhere to go. Yeah. They don't have anywhere to go is another thing. Right. And so, and then when you don't have anywhere to go, that's when it becomes a crime to be homeless, and that's not a crime. But if we were to use the farmland that is available all throughout the US and then just build the dormitories and the facilities there instead, you'd be able to hit all these multiple like, you know, points to it. Right. And then you give a person a place to go, and then they would be able to farm their own land. In the Soviet bloc, as my dad is a Soviet refugee, you don't work, you don't eat. So, you know, if you want to eat, you farm your own food.
Yeah, as I was saying to my friend, you know, the French philosopher Voltaire said we need to cultivate our own garden. That's the only way we have to survive. And I really believe, I agree with you totally. I really believe that every community they have to have their own garden, community garden. Yes. In fact, we're starting one in my town in Dighton, Massachusetts. You know, we're going to start building a community garden where everybody can pick up their, you know, fresh food and produce and whatnot and everything. So yeah, but also the question of this whole idea that America being first. I mean, to some leftists, they think it's white supremacy. They think they equate nationalism / patriotism with white supremacy. I mean, how do you even like educate, or if they're educatable? I
mean, we saw at the town hall, like when Trump condemned white supremacy for the 300th millionth time, like when she asked that question, I'm like, again? Like, how many times does the person need to say it? Like,
because they don't want to talk about Hunter Biden's scandals and emails. That's why. Cover up.
That's very true. Like, that's very true. Let's distract, deflect.
Yeah. It's not going to go.
But, I mean, all people are doing is because, like, once you discredit a person, you take away their voice, and that's also when it comes to like how I've felt very silenced in my opinions and stuff, is like nobody's actually addressing the points that I'm making. They're just trying to discredit me as a person by saying like, oh, you're uneducated, you're like a white supremacist. And I'm like, really? Because I'm brown. But but at the same time, like, it's what's kind of like insulting, or I don't know what's the right word to describe, but I don't like the fact that you need to have some sort of shield to have an opinion, because like, in a sense, like, just because I'm brown doesn't give me the right to speak on race issues that a person who's white should not be allowed to have an opinion. That's not true. Like, it's good to have outsider perspectives as well, because, like, you know, you can have a lay opinion and an unbiased opinion come in. All of those, they're all valuable. Is like when you talk to different people and you know, how I always viewed people's opinions is somebody's bringing the depth, somebody's bringing in the width, somebody's bringing in, you know, all of these different points, and you construct them together. You apply those together to come up with what you are building. And so a person doesn't need to have a pot to piss on in order to be able to speak their opinion. And that's what I don't like with, like, oh, you can only talk about race issues if you're POC. You can only talk about like LGBT issues if you're part of the LGBT community.
Yeah. I really hate that. It's like saying, okay, well, you know, how dare you become a professor of African studies? You're not even black. You know, hello.
Yes.
Remember Rachel Dolezal, that white woman who pretended to be a black woman like for years until her parents came out to the press and said, she's actually white. She's white. She ain't no black. She's white.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I mean, that really cracked me up. And then you have these individuals, especially within the LGBTQ alphabet community, who you know, who's gender fluid, whose gender changes depending on their feelings, on their moods and whatnot. You know what? There are only two genders, okay? I mean, labor trigger.
How dare you say that? How dare you say there's only two genders? I mean, if I want to identify myself as a princess unicorn, I'm a princess unicorn.
Hello, exactly. You know, today I'm COVID-19. Hello.
Oh, Corona.
Corona. There you go. But see, that's one thing. That's one of the issues I think that that bothers me about the left, because I mean, you know, I walked away 2012. That was I voted for Obama once, and I gave him a chance to do a good work for this country, but he failed. So 2012 came along, and I decided, you know what, Mitch Romney is not so bad. You know, I think I'm going to change the Republican Party, and of course he lost, and Obama won again, etc. So that's when everything went downhill, and then that's it. That's it for me. You know, I could care less about America anymore. I'm just going to pay attention on my life, my own social circle of friends and whatnot. Screw politics, screw America, bye. And then Trump came along, because I had been following Trump since his Apprentice days. I had been watching his show, and I felt, you know what, he's amazing. You know, I love the way he managed his company and whatnot, and he made like 3 beautiful, wonderful kids who never took drugs, took alcohol. They never got involved in scandals, not that I know of, and whatnot. But you know, he commanded America exactly needs. We want somebody who needs to run the country like a company, you know. And so far, he's doing very good. He fires people left and right who's not doing a good job. You know, I mean, it's great. You know, I think that's exactly what we needed. And he's not a politician. He speaks.
I love the fact that he's not a politician. He's a person you can just grab a beer with. Like just a normal individual.
Yes.
Because here's the thing that brings me to like my thoughts about like political correctness and how I feel like we're so conditioned when it comes to words, but it's beautiful words that then shape our ideologies, and that's how we can become conditioned or a believer in something that you know you have well-intentioned individuals that then get caught up on. All of a sudden we're more judgmental on people's words as opposed to actions.
Right.
And so that also goes back to like the First Amendment and why you can't be arrested for words, because you're judged on an action. And like when it comes to what actually establishes a virtue and vice is nothing that you say. Like you can say something very, you know, as often as you want, but that doesn't make you a virtuous person that believes in that value. It's going to be how you act and how you behave.
Actions speak louder than words. I mean, it's true.
Absolutely. And then for some reason, people are not believing that, and they're believing the words of individuals, and then not seeing the actions. And media absolutely hides all of the positive actions that Trump has.
Yeah, I totally agree. That's why, you know, if you're like a millennial, well, let's say if you're like a teenager, I mean, or even younger, so how do you even escape the claws of the left-wing mainstream media and whatnot? Because you're constantly, I mean, even if you know, play with your little iPhone or your TikTok, whatever, there's always this leftist advertising intruding itself on your TikTok and stuff. What the hell is this? I never ordered this. Like, you know, they're trying to indoctrinate you already right here via TikTok and other social media apps and whatnot. You know, how do you get rid of this? You know, I mean, as a parent, I'm sure you're going to be parents someday. How are you going to?
We need more conservative media channels, like and also social media outlets and everything. And I'm not trying to say like, oh, we should have, you know, I don't want to separate leftists and rightists from not using the same social media, because we want to have that collection of ideas and everything. But it's the headlines that come out there, like it's clickbait. The clickbait that I see on social media, like it will say like one headline, and then when I click on it, the article has nothing to do with this headline whatsoever, and I go searching for where was it. And then so like this one example I can think of is when they said that I think it was when Herman Cain had passed away. Mm-hmm. And they asked him if they asked Trump if he was attending the funeral, and he said no. And so the actual like clip was, you can barely hear the question because it was like a helicopter in the background, and the question was asking him like, are you attending the funeral? And Trump just goes no. But the headline of it was Trump refuses to pay respect to civil rights leader. Yeah. That's the headline, and then you have to search deep into that, and then it changes the headline as soon as you click on it. Yeah. And so once you start, becoming aware of these lies that are like so blatant, that's all you see. Yeah. So like for me, that's the point that I dropped watching kind of like CNN and watching Fox. I don't really pay attention to other people's opinions because it's all opinionated news that you have. So for me, I'm like White House Gov website. That's where I get my news, and that's my main news source. And then I like reading international news, like reading I like Al Jazeera and BBC. Yeah. But in terms of finding out like what are the policies that are coming out, I just watch the full press conferences now, and I just go straight to the White House website. No more opinionated news.
Do you watch C-SPAN? I like C-SPAN.
At times. You know what was the biggest shocker for me? Because I used to listen to NPR all the time. Oh, yeah. And then when I started noticing like the dialogue that was there, because like whenever they talked about something that was positive with the Senate, they would just call it the Senate versus like Republicans, but then they would refer to like Congress, they would refer to them as Democrats. And so like depending on whether the news was positive or negative is how which term that they would use. And I'm like, wait a second, did I just hear that? And I'm like, I can't trust you anymore either.
That's why, well, okay, you've heard of Cartesian logic, right? I mean, for me, I majored in French, so I've majored in 17th century French literature. So a lot of my intellectual influence came from 17th century French white men, dead white men. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now I love Descartes because of him that I was able to appreciate the existence of God, because basically his main philosophy is that you have to start from scratch, tabula rasa, erase everything that you've known from the beginning and start from scratch, do your own research. So that's exactly what we need to do, what every American that has an open mind needs to do, is start from scratch. But it's not a very easy thing to do, because you have constant interruptions, intrusions, from different mediums and whatnot. And also the biggest challenge is how to be able to find the truth with your iPhone on all the time. You need to turn off that damn phone because you get all notifications, whatnot. I don't want notifications. Get out of here. I want to focus on my journey to the truth.
Yes.
So yeah. So Descartes was very big, and also Blaise Pascal, and of course, and then in 20th century French literature, you have the existentialist philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre, who basically decided, okay, well, hell is other people. And you know what? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's true. Hell is other people, especially if you let them be. So, who are your? Do you have any role models, like from an intellectual, academic perspective?
Well, my favorite like literature is, I love French literature. So, Victor Hugo, Alexandre Dumas. Those are my favorite authors. That, and also Emily Bronte. So, English literature as well. And so I'm a fan of the classics, and to me that was also very influential.
What about 1984 George Orwell?
I love Orwell. Of course, Animal Farm.
Yeah. So we don't even teach American literature anymore to kids. No.
Yeah, we don't. I mean, they started taking out even. I remember one of the books, like To Kill a Mockingbird. That's one of the classics that I had read. Fahrenheit. Was it Fahrenheit 9/11? Fahrenheit
9/21, 4/21, Fahrenheit.
Was it Fahrenheit 9?
I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah. That one, and then who is else? Slaughterhouse-Five, Vonnegut. I was a huge Vonnegut fan.
Oh my God, yeah. I love it.
But like those books are controversial and censored. So, but they're not. They're like, yes, as we expand our literature and everything, like is To Kill a Mockingbird necessarily like the best to be teaching race issues in schools and everything? I think it depends always on the teacher. It always depends on the teacher, because like to me, like it was
Yeah, I totally agree.
Blackwell who had said, I would rather have defend nine innocent men than to send one guilty man to jail, like because we have an imperfect system. The point is to progress towards a better system, but that's why justice is meant to be slow
Mhm.
and not to be according to mob justice. And that's why we have, like with the Supreme Court, it's an appointment for life. It's not with term limits, because we don't want justice to be shifting every day that we're waking up. And so that's what we see kind of with online life and social media, like the mob justice of cancel culture and going after people's jobs and everything. Because like to me, that is just as bad as like putting a person to jail when you're taking away their livelihood and ability to put food in their children's mouths. And so over words, like even Polish slurs that people have said to me, like I for me, I'm like, whatever, like it's a word, get over it.
Yeah.
Like that to me has never been the victim to that. So I'm like,
yeah. Plus,
but I would never turn around and go after their job for it.
I
They
know,
still
like,
have children.
yeah, the whole idea of doxing just really bothers me to the
Yeah.
tip. It's just like, how dare you? How dare you publish my address and my phone number in public? Like, who gave you the right? Blah blah blah. So I constantly have to change my cell phone number. I mean, I can't move
Yeah,
the house.
it's so easy to access people's addresses and their phone numbers, and like and people post that.
Yeah.
Like that can translate from online, like the visceral hatred that we see online. It can translate to real world violence, and that's wrong. I mean, like I don't know how to say it. That's wrong.
Is there not a law against that? Doxing? I think there should be a law against that. Or maybe it's just,
There should be.
yeah. It's like
I hope there would be.
it's like stalking, because stalking is a crime in in my state,
Yes.
Massachusetts. But I don't know if stalking, is considered a crime in other states. Maybe I really don't know. So, but yeah, it's like going back to the question of education, because let's say if you were to learn Polish history, okay,
Mhm.
would you prefer a professor who has a Polish background, who was born in Poland, who speaks fluent Polish, or a non-Polish person who probably knows more or just as much as the Polish professor?
I say whoever is able to teach it well, that would be my vote. I mean, just because you have like a person who is born and raised in Poland isn't necessarily going to be the person that's more knowledgeable. If anything, there might be a language barrier because I don't speak Polish. Uh, so I would just, my vote would go to the person who knows more, who's more knowledgeable about it. But the thing is, that's the interesting thing with history, is it's going to be also, it's a narrative that's taught to you. So like now when I started traveling the world, like how history is taught in our schools, from what America has done right and wrong. Like we definitely learn about all, at least when I was in high school and in college, we learned about all the right things that America has done. But I definitely learned a different perspective when I went to Vietnam, about the Vietnam War. I had no idea about Pol Pot when I went to Cambodia and America's involvement with that. And you never heard of Laos. Like so it boggled my mind to not have been taught that side of things in history class.
Well, sometimes that's why actually sometimes the best type of education is actually traveling, like,
Yes.
Like visiting all these places that you visited and whatnot, because, it really expands your horizon, Now,
Yeah.
have you been to the Philippines?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you like it?
Yeah, I did. I was living in the Philippines for 4 months last year.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right.
Over in Boracay.
Filipino?
I don't speak Tagalog, but I know a little bit of Visayan. My mom's from Mindanao, Davao City, so Duterte. And what's interesting is like when people tell me like, oh, Duterte, he's human rights violation, this and that. I'm like, really? Have you been to the Philippines? You have no idea what's going on there. It's a lawless country. So in which case, like, this is what actually shapes things up and has made, like, Duterte is the former mayor of Davao City, and he made it the safest city in the Philippines. And now that his daughter Sarah is the mayor of Davao City, it continues to be the safest place in the Philippines, though the island of Mindanao continues to be on the no-fly zone. Like, to me, I had no idea this was known as like a terrorist like hotspot and zone and everything. To me, it was just going home every year since I was like 5 years old. So
yeah. Well, being half-breed,
Yes.
What are some of the like major issues or problems you face as a mixed?
Yeah. Well, growing up mixed, so I grew up in Orlando, so that was pretty like multicultural. Actually, the church I attended both had a Polish mass and a Filipino mass. The only thing is like
Well,
I feel like
you
when
didn't have to change your religion because both of your parents are Catholic, so that's good.
yeah,
You
oh,
know?
it was like super on both sides.
Yeah.
But so one of the things that was a challenge with growing up being mixed race was the inability really to identify with either. Because like when you're a child and and you just want to be able to belong. That's all you care about. You just want to belong to a group. So I never felt I belonged to with the other Polish girls or the other Filipino girls. I looked different from them. I like, they were because their hair was darker than mine and thicker than mine. And then I was like a thicker child too, because Filipino girls are also scrawny growing up. And then Polish girls are more
Malnourished.
voluptuous and everything. So I never felt like I really belonged to either group. And so the wanting to be accepted by them was a challenge. Like I would go to the Filipino parties and everything, but I really never clicked with the Filipino girls or like the other Polish girls. And I was also told like, oh, you're not going to be accepted as Polish unless you do something like famous in your life. Then they're going to be like, oh, her last name's Polish.
How do you
But
pronounce that?
my last name's Szczepanski.
How is it?
Szczepanski. I know it has two Z's in there. Szczepanski. So it
Yeah.
means Stevenson.
Yeah. Polish names are weird. Like all these like
Yeah.
clusters of consonants.
Yes, I feel like there's definitely missing some letters in there and everything. But yeah, so that was a challenge for me growing up. But the thing is, like, as I became older, and actually pageantry is something that helped me embrace it more about about who I am as an individual and finding my own like value of how I am beautiful but different. And really was that I didn't have to look like everybody else, and I started to like embrace how I was different as my own form of beauty. And so kind of when I came to more of a grips and understanding of that, it lessened my desire to want to have to belong to any other group, because I didn't have to belong to another group. I just am what I am.
Did you ever suffer from low self-esteem by any chance?
I did actually. So my platform for the Miss America system was suicide prevention, and that's because I was clinically diagnosed with depression. And with that, so I took on suicide prevention as my platform, and with that, like that helped my own individual situation to be able to connect to other individuals. I became a spokesperson for the American Foundation of Suicide Prevention. Then I also volunteered as a crisis helpline counselor with Lifeline of Central Florida and Switchboards of Miami. So often when I tell others that like I had battles with depression and in my own experience and whatnot, but they're like, what you have like this like little perfect life and everything, and I'm like, it doesn't discriminate.
Yeah.
Like and a lot of
The
it has to
virus
do with like
discriminate, yeah.
yeah, it doesn't discriminate. So like regardless of what you look like on the outside or what your life appears to be like, like depression is something that I feel like anybody can be like susceptible and vulnerable to. But I think that when I also started traveling and having a greater understanding of poverty around the world, it made me feel definitely very fortunate in my own life, especially traveling to the Philippines. You see all the poverty that's there. So much poverty that's there. And then so what I found to be helpful with what I also loved about pageantry was my community service involvement. And so that's something that I would encourage anybody to do is if you're feeling less about yourself and you have difficulty to find value within yourself, go serve others. And when you go and serve others, at least then if you can't find value within yourself, you're finding a value by helping another person. And so that's how I was also able to lift myself out of depression, was by doing a lot of community service and in the service of others. And so like anytime, like if I ever felt less about myself, I would go and volunteer at a soup kitchen.
So do you feel like your parents raised you well? You and your siblings?
I do. Yeah, I think my parents did a very good job, and they're still together. So
Wow.
I think like like the divorce rate's so high in America, and we have a different, for whatever reason, commitment differs from now versus then and whatnot. But my parents are still together, and they're completely opposites. They're completely opposites.
That's
like
the best type of relationship.
Yeah, yeah.
I
I
really
mean,
do.
they had their common goal together was really to have a family.
Yeah.
So and so my dad is like he lived his life for me and my brothers. He did.
Mhm.
So that's what has made him not just like a normal dad, but he's like a superior, like I am the best dad ever. Literally, I have the best dad ever. And so since I became a Trumpster, it's been so much fun for us to be going out and about and trolling online and everything
Now,
together.
has your father ever returned to Poland? Or do you,
Many times.
his
Many
relatives?
times, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. I've gone back to Poland like the first time I went was when I was in second grade. So that was my first country I ever traveled to, and the second one was the Philippines when I went in fifth grade. But I had contemplated living in Poland for a while. I'm actually a Polish citizen too, so I do have dual citizenship.
Okay.
And so I am a Polish citizen, and I would love to go and like live there and spend time. But I'm sure I'll have the opportunity to, because I tend to bounce around the world a lot. So I think I'll be able to
Do.
go and spend more time in Poland. I think the longest duration I ever had. We're planning on doing a huge. Well, it was supposed to be this year, but COVID. But when I started the Polish American Brotherhood, it's definitely made me a Polish history buff. And with that, I am looking forward to traveling to all the cities that I am covering on my channel, because you have to. So I'm going to be the family tour guide for that.
Well, if you're a Polish citizen, maybe you should compete. You should represent Poland in another pageant.
I have had the opportunity. I was supposed to actually in two different international competitions. I was going to represent the Philippines, but both conflicted with work, so I was not able to go through with those international competitions. But I had been accepted to another competition as Miss Poland, which is, I'm sure they would like, being a Filipino girl representing
They're
Poland.
like, she don't look Polish to me.
A little bit of confusion there.
That's
But yeah, that would be cool.
Well, at least you're breaking people's perception. So not all Polish women are
Yeah.
tall or blonde.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, even when I was representing the USA, because like people's perception of what a girl from the USA would look like, I often expected a blonde hair, blue eyed girl. And I'm like, no, America is very diverse.
Yeah. Do you have any black friends?
Huh?
Do you have any black friends?
A few. If you have black friends, you're not racist then, right?
That's right. Do you have any Hispanic friends?
Quite a bit. Number one being Adam Francisco, my YouTube partner. So be sure to also like check him out on YouTube.
And Adam's Jew too, right? He's a Jew boy.
Yeah, Adam's a Mexican Jew. So he's always suiting his Mexican Jew shirt.
And you're a
Polifino.
Polifina, or
Polifino, yes.
or Philly Polish.
Yes.
Yeah, either way.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, exactly. Now, do you think? Okay, let's talk about this. The Black Lives Matter. I think it's dying down a bit. This whole, I mean, there are less riots, especially in Seattle or Los Angeles, but in Portland it's still going on.
Yeah.
So, okay, so we both agree that all lives matter, that all Black lives matter, but we don't necessarily agree that the Black Lives Matter, the organization, is a legitimate or a benevolent organization. So,
I think it's a terrorist organization. I think Black Lives Matter, the organization, is a terrorist organization. If you are burning down my cities, you're a terrorist organization. Like, and then to take a phrase that is like, duh, like to be using that to promote this hidden Marxist agenda of terrorizing our cities. Because the thing is, when Black Lives Matter first started as a movement, it had the potential to do so much good. But months now have passed. I don't see any good. I see a lot of bad, and I see a lot of damage, and I see a lot of lives have been lost. I see a lot, like what they're doing to our police officers. I'm sorry, back the blue. Absolutely, and I don't mean the liberal kind. So
what's really bothersome is that the original founders, I think they're all lesbians. They're all lesbians. They haven't said a word. They haven't even condemned any of these riots. And I was watching Sunday Morning the other day, and they interviewed Alicia Garza, one of the co-founders, where she's talking about the humble origins of the movement and so forth and so on. But I was waiting for her to condemn the riots. Nothing came out. that condemnation. So I think that really bothers me. And
Yes.
well, you know what? Because she was being interviewed by CBS. And CBS is a leftist Democrat organization.
Yes.
They probably support Black Lives Matter anyway. So why piss her off, right? So yeah. But what do you think of Candace Owens? Do we like her?
I love Candace Owens.
Me too.
I hope to be the Asian Candace Owens.
Or the Polish Polifino.
Yeah. But the first time I became familiar with her and I posted something on my social media about her, everyone was like, oh, she's such a white supremacist. And I'm like, early? Because she's Black. I don't get it. Like, how is she a white supremacist? Like, do you need to check the dictionary? Like, but that's what everyone was coming at with her, is like, oh, she's a white supremacist. She's a white supremacist. And that's why, you have to invalidate the person to take away their voice. Mm-hmm. That's what they're doing. They just like try to invalidate her as a person so that people won't listen to her. Yeah. And so, of course, like, you're gonna tell me she's a white supremacist. I can see with my own eyes that's not true. But I guess so many others are gonna be like, oh, well, I shouldn't listen to her if she's a white supremacist. I gotta take your word for it.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with her. I mean, totally, because I think the reason why there's so many, Black and Black crimes in this country is because, again, mm-hmm. the absence of the Black father. You wonder, wait a minute, maybe Kamala Harris was responsible for that problem too, because, she did imprison a lot of like innocent Black men, right?
Yeah, for petty drug crimes.
Exactly. So that, and also the Chicago, I mean, like, how many murders, are committed Chicago every day, like what, 50 a day, maybe more on weekends and stuff and everything. There's no Black Lives Matter protesting the crime, that tragedy. Yeah. So there's a lot of cognitive dissonance amongst the movement itself. I mean, how could you say you say Black lives, but yet you don't care about the Black cop being murdered by the protest? You don't care.
I feel like that they've taken the most sensationalized images and used that as an emotional appeal to audiences. Mm-hmm. And then, so that's kind of like what's been going on there, because like, when you just like what I love about Candace Owens is she's just always presenting the facts and the figures that, and people get offended by facts. I'm like, there's like trying, like, it's a fact. You can't challenge that unless you present me with another fact.
Yeah. The video she posted about 2 days after George Floyd's death. Mm-hmm. I was like, oh my God, what is she going to say now? I was waiting. What is she going to say now? She's going to liberals and boom, bombshell right there. Mm-hmm. Hatred flooding in. And stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, they just didn't like the facts and the figures, which are true. Mm-hmm. And then, so when you become emotionally, like, there should not be an emotional response when it comes to facts and figures. It's just logic. Sorry, not sorry.
So okay. So we both love Candace Owens. You met the founder of the Proud Boys. I saw that little video.
Yes. I met Enrique Taro.
Looks like you're in love with him.
Oh, he's fantastic. Oh my goodness. It was love at first shirt. Yeah. I was like, hey, I like your shirt. He's like, I like your jacket. Yeah. And I'm like, oh my God, are we besties?
Yeah, like, who would have thunk that the founder of Proud Boys is Afro-Cuban, not white?
Yeah. That white supremacist group. That white supremacist group.
Yeah, white supremacists burning and looting and killing cops everywhere across the country. Yeah, the white supremacists are the problem.
Oh, thank goodness for them, for defending our cities. Like, thank goodness for them.
The Proud Boys actually remind me of in New York City, like years ago. Not Angels, not Hells.
The Angels.
Yes.
The Angels. Yes.
Yeah, they were actually protecting innocent civilians from being attacked by criminals and whatnot, but they don't carry guns. They just like into martial arts and physical self-defense. But the Proud Boys are a different league of their own. And I think I don't know, from what I've read about the history of the Proud Boys, it started out basically as an all boys club. They just want to go out.
Yeah, it's a drinking group.
Yes, it's a drinking group, exactly.
It's a normal, almost like your hooligans. They're just a drinking group.
Yeah, it's like
started off as that, but
yeah,
it was like a fraternity of its own, but they started off as a drinking group. And because like my thoughts of them, I thought they were like a militia. And so when I talked to Enrique, he's like, no, we're not a militia. We started off as a drinking group and we're just proud. We're proud to be men. We're proud to be Western men. And
Western chauvinists. Yep. That's the term that I Western chauvinists.
Western chauvinists.
Yeah.
And but like, part of their philosophy and everything is that, like they revere their wives and just the traditional, like almost like you think of Southern gentleman.
Yeah,
like that kind of concept. And there's
some of
and
the
there's
rules.
nothing wrong with that.
I don't know. There's one rule that to me is a bit very restrictive. You know, you only have to masturbate like once a month or something like that. Really? Oh,
yeah, I remember seeing that one.
Bye. I'm just kidding.
I saw that rule.
The other rules, okay?
You got to reserve that for your wives. So.
But yeah, Gavin McInnes was actually the founder, and he's like white Canadian, British Canadian, Anglo and whatnot. He left the group, I think, like what 6 years ago, I think 4 years ago, because at that time it was getting raunchy, rowdy. It was attracting a lot of real white supremacists and white neo-Nazis and whatnot. So that's why he wanted to, disavow them. And so he did. So he left. But now he's sort of like gradually coming back to the fold, so to speak, because of, I guess, more positive publicity. But yeah, we need Proud Boys. We need Hells Angels to defend Western society, Western culture from invaders and whatnot. You know, we need they're like the vanguard, so to speak, the protectors of our Western culture and whatnot. So okay, so we both like the Proud Boys. So what have you heard? You've heard of Milo Yiannopoulos?
Say again?
Milo Yiannopoulos. He's a gay British Anglo white guy. He became very big like 4 years ago when he was supposed to give a talk at UC Berkeley, but he was banned. And then because leftist students started rioting, they started protesting. Oh no, Milo's a racist. He's a Nazi. Blah 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 blah. Even though he's like openly gay, he's married to a black man, etc.
Yeah.
And his Twitter account was totally banned. He was erased from social media, and then he just disappeared. And now he's gradually coming back. He's now in Parler. Are you in Parler? Because I'm in Parler.
I just joined Parler. Enrique told me to download it, so I just joined Parler. Yeah. So the opens free speech. I love it.
Parler is the best. So, but Milo is like, doing his discussions from there and whatnot. So yeah, so he was I like him too. And also, what else? There's so many conservative people that I look up to, and of course Dan Bongino. Bongino Report. He was a former New York cop. You ever heard of him? Yeah, he talks at Fox News all the time. He's like he contributes a lot. The Bongino Report, Dan Bongino. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so he's awesome, and of course Tucker Carlson. I love.
Oh, he's the best.
He's the best. So Fox News, starting with Tucker Carlson, followed by Sean Hannity, and then Laura Ingraham. I love Laura Ingraham. I love that woman. She's like, she's like a spitfire. She's like very vocal. Yes. She doesn't hold back. Come on, Laura, just say it. Yeah, it's wonderful. Do you have other? Okay. Consider for a minute the left. Okay, now that you're moved to the right, are there still other do you still maintain to some of these leftist celebrities or leftist
politics? I guess I was
Maxine Waters, maybe.
No. God, I feel like the name's eluding me.
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
Oh, AOC. Oh my Lord, I did like her before, but after she shitted on one of my statues.
Oh.
The priest from the priest from Hawaii. After that, I'm like, you don't even know the history of this one when you're calling this guy a white supremacist. I'm like, so I didn't like her after that.
Yeah.
It's like, you're just picking this statue to fit your agenda, and you have no idea who this person was. Father Damien, you have no idea. He serviced lepers. He decided to stay on an island to service lepers. He gave his life to this, and you're calling him a white supremacist just because he's a statue of a white man.
To them, every Spanish missionary from the 17th century are all white supremacists, like Father Junipero Serra. Yes. California and whatnot. Yeah, so they're all white supremacists. Columbus, of course, was a white supremacist. Did you celebrate Christopher Columbus Day?
I put a happy national holiday, everyone. I wasn't a Columbus person before or after, but at the same time, the thing is it's important to have in a sense a figurehead for America, for who our founder is. Though I'm a Leif Erikson person. And so I think that he should be the one that's revered as the one who discovered America. Though people were inhabiting before, so it was not really discovered, it's rediscovered. But at the same time, like, I think it's important to like have that, because it does instill a sense of national pride, and we need to have a sense of national pride, because like that's what's going to be our motivation when we are in a sense under attack, is to be able to unify with these heroes that we know their stories and folklore for. So for me, it's Leif Erikson. I'm not a Christopher Columbus guy.
In a way, sort of like it's puzzling, you know, that these, I mean, for me, I think it's so important to have a sense of national pride and national identity. I mean, it doesn't matter what color your skin is or whatever your political views are, but if you, that's the whole idea of national identity, is because everybody's united under one flag, under one country, under one banner, you know, despite all our differences and whatnot. And I like the fact that English, even though it's not the official language in America, English is like widely spoken. It's like the lingua franca. You know, if you don't speak Spanish, then speak English, and we can all understand each other. But it's funny too, because I know in some parts of Miami, huge Cuban Venezuelan population. Many of them, generations of them, have lived there, but they don't speak a word of English. Maybe one or two. Hello, goodbye. That's it. But they perfectly thrive. You know, from an economic perspective. So who are we to say that you need to speak English if they're perfectly happy economically and financially and whatnot, you know? So do you think, my question to you is, do you think English should be the official language, or is it time for us to establish English as the official language in America?
I mean, I don't think it really, in a sense, like matters to what is called the official language or not. One of the questions that I was asked, I remember when I competed for Miss Miami, when I had won, was like, you don't speak Spanish. Do you think that Miss Miami should speak Spanish? And I said that it's not going to be so much in the language that you speak. Everybody should be open to learning as much as they can. But communication, it's more than the words that you say. It's the feelings you give to other people. And then so you're able to communicate those emotions and that expression beyond a written or verbal, like the words and everything.
It's such a pageant patty answer, Tara.
I know. Oh my gosh.
I love it. It works.
But it won me the title. What can I say?
It works.
Well, yeah. So in terms of like, it's nice to have like a national language, but it is going to depend on the communities that you live and thrive in, and the ones that you choose to be in. When my father first came to Canada, like I tell him that he's still learning English now, but he lived in an all Polish community, so he didn't learn English when he first came, but he only started learning English in his 30s as well, and he did feel like I could have gone further if I was able to communicate in English like sooner in life.
Right. Yeah.
So I think that English should definitely be taught in school. Like, if you want to label it as the official language, I don't think it matters so much. But I don't think that we should be forced to speak Spanish either way. I think that, you know, whatever communication you need to get through your own life, then go for it.
Right, exactly.
I wish we were European in that regard. I wish that we spoke 5 languages. I'm jealous of the Europeans for that, though, because the Europeans speak like 5 different languages, and then.
Well, you know why? You know why? Because it's a small continent. All these small little countries are clustered up together.
Yeah.
So for them to travel from one place to another. You know what I mean? Like Swiss speaks like 4 or 5 languages and whatnot. So, and then you have England. The English only speak 1 language because it's isolated.
Yeah. But I mean, even if you look at the diversity of dialects that we have, or not dialects, but like accents that we have and choices of words throughout from state to state, there's definitely differences between like Texas and Louisiana and Florida and Kentucky, and so that variation certainly exists, but it is all forms of the English language, but it really, in a sense, can be its own dialect. Right. To communicate from one to the other might be very challenging at the same time.
Yeah. Is it like hard to be an American? I mean, it's what I totally forgot about the requirements. So for a foreigner, for an immigrant to be able to, before becoming a citizenship, they have to be, they have to live in America for like 8 years? I totally forgot. So anyway, like, I don't know, how did your father become a citizen? Like, what do you want citizens?
So he immigrated from Canada to the USA, and then he got naturalized as a citizen that way. So, and he was first, so he was a Soviet refugee. He crossed from present day Slovenia, Yugoslavia back then, from Koper to Trieste, And then so he said that like oh, my feet were black because I didn't have shoes. And I'm like, Dad, what happened to your shoes? So like my slippers broke when I was walking. So my dad literally walked barefoot when he was crossing like the border. And so he was then accepted into the refugee program in Italy, and his options were to go to either Canada or to go to Australia. And his goal was America because he saw a picture of America when he was like 13 years old, and he figured they had food there. So he wanted to go to the country that had food. And so that's why he decided to go to America and set his sights on coming here. And but yeah, so he was accepted in through Canada, and then it's easier to immigrate from Canada down to the US.
How come he didn't stay in Canada? He could have stayed.
He could have, but my dad's a man of his goals, so he set his sights on America, and he came over the legal way.
Maybe more opportunities in America. That's why.
Yeah. And actually, so my dad was a car mechanic first, and then he got his A&P license and started working for Continental, now United. And so that's also why I love traveling, is because I was a United or Continental kid growing up, and I had the opportunity to be going to all of these countries, and I still can. So.
Oh, okay. So when was the last country you visited?
I was in Asia I came back the day before the pandemic was announced. So I came back on March 12th. And so I was promised normalcy by my friends, and they lied to me because I came back on March 12th, and on March 13th, all of a sudden everything's going to hell here. So
yeah.
But I traveled this year. I traveled for 11 months straight last year, and I went to 25 countries. Mm-hmm. And then so of course I wanted to go to more countries this year, but I did go to Southeast Asia. I gave my mom had just retired as a nurse, so she wanted a tour of Asia. So my dad's dropping me off at the airport. He's like, "Do you promise to come back this time?" And I was like, "Yeah, Dad, I'll come back." But so I met my mom in Vietnam. We went Vietnam, Thailand, Cambodia, Myanmar, Singapore, and Malaysia. So it's only 6 countries this year. Only 6 countries.
Oh yeah. I've never been to India, but I heard India is a fascinating country to visit. Huge country. Somebody thinks.
Yeah, I haven't been to India yet either. I was the plan was also to go Sri Lanka and then India, and then exit from India to Dubai and then come back that route. But we ended up cutting off like a month and a half of the trip because of COVID. But yeah, I have a lot of friends that are from different parts of India, so I want to visit to Goa, to Kerala, to Rajasthan, and of course like the main cities, and see the Taj Mahal. Why not? Why not?
Now let's talk about the plandemic.
Yes.
Well, so apparently, rumor has it that the vaccine could be available either before the end of the year or early January. If that were true, would you take it?
Okay, so my stance actually on the vaccines a little bit has changed. Before I was like, I don't want to be one of the first ones rushing to get a vaccine. I didn't really like trust if it's going to be rushed. But the more I thought about it, I'm like, you know what? If they concentrate all the resources into one thing, it is possible to have something, safely developed, and you do have the best minds behind it. So I signed up to be part of the vaccine trials.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, because I just figured, because it is a tragedy what's going on in the country and everything, and I do consider myself to be a very healthy individual. And so like I believe like in serving the military and everything. I never went the military route in my life, but in my own small way, I could probably, I'm hoping to contribute to this cause and to a cure of it. So I did sign up for a vaccine trial.
Wonderful. That's
so
wonderful.
I volunteer myself as a guinea pig for it.
Well, you know what?
But that was recent. I haven't gotten the contact back for it, but yeah, I signed up on the national registry to be part of the trials.
That's great. I do have a question though. I mean, since the president luckily recovered from COVID-19, how come they haven't released his drug cocktail? I mean, what's
Regeneron? Yeah, I have no idea. That's the name of it, Regeneron. I looked into it, and then it's like the Mr. T did promise like it's going to be available to people,
Yeah.
but it is a very expensive drug. Like a single like administration of it is like $92,000.
Wow.
You know, like I think in cases like you can't put a dollar price on saving a human's life for it. So maybe there's red tape holding it back from that regard. But you know, thank God
Nancy
Mr. T took it.
Pelosi. Nancy Pelosi was blaming it on her.
Oh, for sure, for
Yeah,
sure.
she wants American to die. Yeah, pretty much.
Oh my God, wasn't it horrible though when President was diagnosed with COVID, like what we saw on social media, like wishing him death and everything. I'm like, that to me is when I kind of stop being a tolerable conservative or a tolerable Trump supporter. So that's I really started like swinging back at people for before I was like, all right, you know, if you slap me, I'll turn the other cheek. But after that, I was like, nah, you slap me, I'm gonna punch you out.
I know. I mean, yeah, well, talking about like a lot of misinformation out there because I really don't know what to do anymore because, you know, that's why I mean, look at me. I've been to over a dozen political Trump rallies, you know, in my state. I haven't been wearing a mask. There's no social distancing, but look at me. I'm still healthy. I haven't had any COVID-19, but not.
Yeah.
So I wonder, does when you think about, okay, well, does the virus only prefer certain types of people? Because, you know, here I am.
Yeah.
Virus, please come to me, please.
I think it was constructed in a lab.
I
100%.
totally agree.
Yeah, I think it was completely constructed in the lab. So in which case it's going to be luck of the draw and how it affects people's bodies and immunities all differently. And so I do think it's important to take it seriously. And depending on your own like situation, because I live with my family, so like I try to take as many extra precautions as I can. But I still, you know, I'm out there interviewing people. I go to Trump rallies. And not every situation I can be socially distancing. I do wear my mask. I wear my Trump 2020 mask. But in terms of like the great mask debate, I think you know it's up to it's up to people to make the decision for themselves for what's going to be necessary. What I don't like is like, you know, in terms of like people are saying, oh, it has to be a federal like mandate for it. No, like it's like the power is in the local and the state governments. And they have to decide what's going to be best for their area, because not every area needs to have a mandate. Not every area should be shutting down. I think it's irresponsible to be taking people's livelihoods and their jobs away, because then you're going to have a lot more like worse situations coming about than COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So
I totally agree. Not only that, but I think like some businesses, I know maybe some airline companies do impose these arbitrary rules regarding masking. Did you see that video of this black man who was kicked out of the airplane? He was wearing a mask, but he had to remove it like for a few seconds because he wanted to eat something.
To eat the peanuts. Yeah, he was eating peanuts. I saw that. But his mask was it was pro-Trump masks.
Exactly. So this bitchy flight attendant, you know, started like, you know, harassing him and you know, blah blah blah, and he finally, you know, obliged. He complied, and then he had to leave the plane. But little things like that really do like bother me. I mean, I if that had happened to me, I probably would have gone ballistic, you know. And I would have used all the cards on the table. Honey, are you throwing me because I'm gay? Are you throwing me out because I'm vegan? Are you throwing me out because I'm Asian? Are you throwing me
shield up?
I'm so
no, I do like when I'm out and about in my Trump gear, which is like everyday life for me now. Like there's like people either love me or they hate me. There's no really in between. There's no neutrality to it. Like often if there's, you know, I'm going to go into a Starbucks, all of a sudden it's at capacity and I have to wait outside. Or like when we've gone out to do our videos, we've certainly been kicked out of places like Disney Springs. And there's like a couple of other malls like Adam and I have been like tossed out of because we're in Trump gear. Because we're really, we know it's because of Trump gear and they can't say it. And they're like, oh, well, you can't be taking vlogs or videos. And I'm like, really? Because like, we can see all the vlogs and videos are out here in this spot in public. I mean, everybody does it, but you just have an issue that we're not, you know, we're peacefully protesting or whatever you want to call it, that we're not throwing bricks. Like, I guess people would stand down if we were throwing bricks through a window. But if we were showing our support to our president, then get out of here.
Because of this hat. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Now, is it, I know in the Philippines, it is now required, in addition to the mask, it's now required to wear a face shield in public.
Okay.
or even if you enter any business establishment, which I find it's really absurd. It's really ridiculous. But
Yeah.
if it works for some people, then fine. I don't have any problem with that.
Yeah.
But I think it's the whole idea of even like just wearing simple mask to me is really unnatural and abnormal, because it hinders you from actually seeing the person's complete expression, facial expression. And
right. Because I'm always smiling, and now like no one can see me
too.
smile, but I try to smile with my eyes.
Mine, baby eyes. Yeah, but I think it just one of I'm wondering, when are we going back to normalcy? Because the other day I went grocery shopping, and I was so happy to see all the one-way stickers on the ground had been removed. So ooh, this is nice. This is very encouraging, even though we still have to wear masks. But they also got rid of the 6 feet social distance rule. Which is great, fabulous and whatnot, which is great. But are we on our way to going back to normalcy? And then, of course, CDC, like 2 weeks ago, they reported that in reality, only 85% of people who were affected by the virus were actually
wearing masks. Yeah.
So what's up with that?
Yeah.
Too many.
I mean, I'm like, I don't know one way or the other. If I have to wear my mask of submission, I'll wear my mask of submission I'll wear my politics on my face then.
Respect the other person. Fine, I'll wear a mask just to be respectful. But of course, not everybody can wear a mask, especially if you're suffering.
Yes.
And there's Owens.
Yeah. That's the thing with having having it as a mandate. People have become, in a sense, like they just use it as a form of attack. Like it gives them the feeling of some sort of self-righteousness and power, that because I feel like the same people that were attacking people for wearing masks, remember how like in America we switched around and said, like, if you're wearing a mask, you're taking it away, you're taking PPE away from the healthcare workers, so you're then the immoral one. And then it switched to like, you have to wear a mask or you're immoral. So let's stop putting a morality when it comes to like all these issues. Like they're just saying like, oh, do this or you're a horrible bad person. And then so you have now that's why I'm against like a federal mask mandate, even though like I personally am for wearing masks according to the area that you're in or whatever your individual situation is. But I think it could, like it could be a hindrance for children if you're going to be touching it and everything. Like it's hard for some people to be adjusting it to it. You mentioned like if you're asthmatic, there's a lot of reasons, and then we stop paying giving any kind of benefit of the doubt, and people are just seeing somebody and be like, oh, you're a terrible person, and then more than just thinking that, but go and attack a person or verbally say something to them. Like if I don't like something, I don't go really up to you, I just go the other direction. I mean, there's the other side of the street, why not?
Exactly. But I think I certainly wouldn't want to live, or I hate to say it, but I think we're turning into a police state for one thing. And again, reminiscence of Nazi Germany, even though you and I live in Nazi Germany, but there's knowing history and having spoken with or having met Holocaust survivors. So we're going to that direction. And Trump is the only person he's like the only obstacle between a police state and liberty and freedom. So that's what my next sign is going to be. I'm going to be like going to another Trump rally Saturday. I'm going to make a sign that says liberty/Trump or lockdown/Biden.
I love it. Perfect. I need a shirt that says that. So I can be a walking billboard. I have to have a shirt that says that.
It's funny too, because I also sometimes I wave the LGBT for Trump flag, and I get a lot of honks from motorists. As compared to just waving the regular red Trump flag or the American flag. But every time I brandish the LGBTQ flag, like okay, how could you be gay and support Trump? I was like,
people are like, how can you be a woman and support Trump? You must hate yourself. I'm like, no, I don't hate myself.
How can you be black and support?
Well, if you don't vote for Biden, you ain't black.
Black, So what do you think? What do you make of the Hunter Biden scandal? Do you think he's involved with prostitution or with child prostitution and the Ukrainian bribe? I mean, come on, the whole Biden family.
I mean, he's selling access to his father. Wow.
Yeah.
Like, wow. And then when, remember when everyone was pointing to Trump, like with the whole Ukraine, they were deflecting the entire time. You have to accuse your enemy of what that you are guilty of.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. It's just
It's
unbelievable.
insane. It's insane. And it's insane that even Twitter is like, trying to shut that down
Mhm.
from information and ah, ah.
Well, it's funny too because you have Twitter, you have well, yeah. Again, social media. They vote Democrat, they vote left, and naturally, they're like the extended arm, extended wing of the Democratic Party. You know,
Yes.
the least thing you say against the party or against the left or liberal, you're automatically
Hmm.
banned. But you know what? I don't think Twitter. I think Twitter is fading away. I honestly do.
Yeah.
Because I said, like, really, people are still using Twitter? Yeah, well, yeah, if you have something short and sweet to say, fine, use Twitter. But a lot of people rely, with the advent of Parler, it's
Hmm.
my number one social media right now. It's Parler. I still use Facebook because I still have a lot of Facebook friends, and this is
Yeah.
Facebook like promote my pageant stuff and everything. Instagram, I like Instagram. You're on Instagram, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
if you
I
could,
like my Instagram is like mostly my like just travel and food photos.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's
I haven't converted that one to being so political
oh my
yet,
God.
but
Oh my God.
there's
I've argued.
always room for improvement.
Oh God, I've argued so much with the left and liberals on my Instagram. I don't block them.
Really?
I only block them. Yeah, I only block them if they threaten me. I block them.
Yes.
I report them at the same time. But other than that, I just let it go. You know what? Fine. That's what they think. Nobody's gonna take them seriously.
Yeah. I think most of my like the harshest comments that I get, like the death threats ones, come from TikTok for me.
Really?
Yeah, because I mean TikTok's so anonymous. Like, and not so much on my at first some stuff on my YouTube channel, but I feel like it hasn't been so much of like the death threat stuff, but some of the really like harsh like death threats that comes through on TikTok.
Okay. Some of these.
I mean, that's why I was afraid. That's why I was afraid to be wearing a Trump hat out. I'm like, are people gonna actually try and beat me up, or oh well, let's find out, guys.
Well, let me see. I drive a Mercedes, and I make sure that I don't put any Trump stickers on my car because I love my Mercedes.
Yeah,
I work
yeah,
hard. So the moment I put
absolutely.
a Trump sticker, I fear that the Antifa is going to start breaking the windows and keying in my
Yeah,
car and stuff and everything. I really
yeah,
don't want to take that risk. So I don't think so. No. But
yeah.
I just bring out all my Trump swag, the Trump rallies and whatnot, here and there. So I'm all set. So that makes me happy. So yeah. So do you think Trump is going to win?
I feel like we have no choice but for him to win if we want to keep our liberties. So
Well,
I really hope so. I think that I do believe in our silent majority that's out there, and I think that I've been seeing people come out more and be more vocal. And I mean, like even my own like Trumpster journey, I get messages daily from people saying, thank you for being vocal because I'm not able to.
interesting.
So, and then I'm like, any opinions you want me to express on your behalf, I will. I'm like, I'll post it up there for you, no problem.
You know what? It's funny because the other day I had this nightmare. And
Yeah.
what if the silent majority are actually Biden supporters?
That sounds like a horrible
You know what I
nightmare.
mean?
I
I
don't
know,
think I
right?
don't think that's
I
true.
know, right? But I mean, just because you see all these like Trump rallies. I mean, they're the most exciting, most exuberant type of activities.
Hmm.
But then you
Hmm.
wonder, what if the silent majority are actually Biden supporters? Like in my town, I live in a small town. Every other house has a Biden Harris signed. I don't see any Trump signs at all. Like maybe like two or three houses that
Hmm.
have the big humongous Trump flag, but that's about it. You know, and my town actually voted Trump like 4 years
Uh-huh.
ago, but it was very close. It
Oh
was,
wow.
56% Trump. The rest is like other
Wow.
or Hillary. So yeah, so I don't know. I hope it's gonna turn even redder this time.
Yes.
But yeah, but there's always that fear in my mind. What is
Yeah. I mean yeah, I certainly have that fear. So it's hard to know. You can't trust polls. I mean,
yeah.
like we saw in 2016, it was what, like 90 something percent that is supposed to be Hillary for the win, and
So Florida,
Donald Trump is your president.
So so Trump obviously will win Florida, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like
Trump is totally going to win Florida. At
okay.
least from my, totally biased opinion. But
So what about
I think so.
like Pennsylvania? Do you think it's going to be like close? It's like toss up, very close.
It might be a toss up. I try not to pay attention too much to the polls and everything because
Okay.
I'm like, I just try to encourage people to vote for Trump.
Now, are you going to vote in person?
and then yeah, to go in person and do it. Absolutely.
Me too.
And I mean, I've certainly, like, when I've influenced my friends, they've influenced their entire families.
That's true. Yeah.
So I do have like numerous friends that I have shown them some facts.
Yeah.
And since they trust me, because they know I'm a rational person, so they're just like curious, like how is it that you're a Trump supporter? And it didn't really take, in a sense, much like convincing. I just like, tell them the points that I'm in support of, and then they went and did their own research, and then all of a sudden their whole family now is going to be voting for Trump. And then these friends are all in New York, so that's fantastic to have them voting in New York for that. Oh, imagine if New York were to ever turn red. That'd be like such a dream.
Oh, that would be a miracle. I wish my state, Massachusetts, would turn red, because it used to be, the last time it was red was like 60 years ago, I think. And then the Kennedy dynasty came along, and and then everything just changed. But now it's just gotten worse. I mean, we have like communists and socialists actually running, for political in that state. It's just disgusting. Yeah. And next door, Rhode Island, it's not doing any better. It's just the same. It's just like, and it's too bad. Have you been to a Trump rally? I know that.
Yes.
Okay. I've never been to one, and I don't think Trump will ever come to Massachusetts because it would be a waste of time and energy. Too bad.
He's come to Florida a couple times. He's come to Florida. It's fantastic. But yeah, God. I was at the Jacksonville rally at the end of September.
Oh, okay. We'll see.
So that was my first Trump rally.
Well,
I wish that we had more time for the election, because I'm like just having so much fun with it. Also, I'm like, I don't want it to end, actually.
Well, that's the problem, because what if the race is so close that it will require another month or 2 months?
Yeah. That's highly probable.
I know Pennsylvania, I think they have like a week or so. They allow them a week or so to be able to count all the ballots. I mean, to me, which is fine, whatever. But I really want to know the results on the night of November 3rd or early morning.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't want all that excitement to drag on. I want it now. Now.
Instant gratification.
Because other things that I go over my life, And
I know, I do feel like life's going to be paused until I know the results.
But I really am planning to go to DC for the inauguration. Knock on wood.
We'll meet here.
We'll meet there. So I'm really looking forward to do that. And I have to save some money, of course. Just pick every penny that I find on the floor and it's like, here's for your Washington DC trip, Rafa. Okay, fine. So I had so much fun talking with you, chatting with you.
Oh, it was fantastic. Thank you, Rafa.
Since you're Miss Walkaway USA 2020, I declare you Miss Walkaway USA 2020. Okay.
Thank you. With my MAGA hat. Oh my God, I love my tiara.
Just pretend you're a little trying to put it. Oh yeah, we have the same other hat.
You have to put it on top of it. Yeah.
Okay, let's pretend. So I'm gonna crown you.
Right.
So the Miss Walkaway USA 2020 is Tara Szczepanski.
Oh my God.
Speech.
Thank you to all the Trumpsters.
Wave.
For the votes you're bringing. Thanks for all the great that you're keeping. Who can live without you? We wouldn't have Mr. T, in all honesty.
That's right.
So thank you to the Trumpsters for voting Trump 2020.
Go Trump, make America great again.
Trump.
Listen, have a wonderful evening.
Have a good evening. Thank you so much.
We'll see each other on social media, on Facebook, of course.
Yes.
And I'm recording this whole chat, and I'm going to upload it to my YouTube channel so we can share it, with everybody. And hopefully they'll be able to watch it. And again, maybe it'll help them decide if they're undecided voters and see.
Yeah. I feel like we covered a lot of good ground, so I hope we can be a positive influence to the world.
We'll probably talk again after the elections. We'll see what happens.
Yes, that'd be fantastic.
Have a wonderful night. Virtual
Have a good night.
hug. Virtual
Virtual
hug.
hug.